Capital shapes the world we live in. It determines where we build, what we build, and who benefits. But the real question is, can capital do more? Can it unlock opportunity in places often overlooked and become a force for real transformation? Ben Kodisang has spent his career exploring that question. From leading roles in major financial institutions to founding Alt Capital Partners, his journey reflects a belief that performance and purpose are not mutually exclusive, but deeply connected. Today on Braadcast, we'll explore what it means to invest with intent and whether capital in the right hands can truly have a conscience. Ben, welcome to Braadcast. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure for me to have you here. And I'd just like to firstly thank you for agreeing and saying yes, because you know, your name is synonymous with property in the industry now. You're the talk of the town. I'm fortunate enough to be able to be your host, but I know that you have been on a couple of people and you've been speaking on a few other shows, but we're just so glad to have you and thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Norman. It's a pleasure being here.
So Ben, today we just, I just want you to be relaxed. We're just going to, have a little bit of a discussion, and I'd like you to share your journey from the very beginning, because, when we read about you, like everyone else, we read about you in the press and the paper and your achievements, and, everyone talks about the CEO or the MD of these institutions that you've been part of and, been part of all these organizations and sitting on boards, but no one gets to know who you are. You could be, for all in purpose, a figurine, but but yeah, we're going to try and make you as real as possible, and we're going to have a conversation and see the youngsters that are and the viewers that can learn anything from your journey and how it's shaped you over the last few years. So take us back to your years. I mean, you grew up in Gauteng and you went to school here.
Yeah, so grew up, born and bred in Joburg, and Soweto in particular. Eldest of three, so mom a nurse and dad an electrician. I got lucky that I was quite smart, so I got myself a scholarship that took me to one of the best schools in the country called STANLIB.
Okay, I know where that is. I think everyone knows STANLIB.
And yeah, from there decided to follow the chartered accountancy route. It was one of those things that was by chance, really, where in one of our career guidance evenings, a CA came to talk about the profession. And my takeaway was, if you want to be in business and you need a good qualification, this is it. And as a youngster, it spoke for 7 years of my life that I didn't have to think. So.
And listen, I can tell you, well, recently we had someone on the podcast, also from STANLIB. You might know, really well-known guy and a very accomplished, also extremely bright. So I think Saint is synonymous with making sure that bright people go there. But, you obviously, when I grew up also, to become an accountant, you had to be smart and you had to have patience, because even the smart people failed in accounting, and you had to grasp it and you had to stick it out, and it was very difficult, and you did that well, but you did that not in Gauteng.
Yes, I did that in KZN. It was one of those life choices at the time. I'll say half my school, actually most of my school was going to UCT, and with the school being based in Joburg, I needed just a different environment to allow myself to grow. So that's why it was not Wits, that's why it was not UCT, and Pietermaritzburg became the obvious choice for what I wanted to study as a recognized institution.
And did you have a network there and family or anything there? Or did you just go out there on your own and decide this is... So you were very independent.
It's a story of my life, yeah. I seem to be drawn to fire and pioneering and discovering and making up stuff, yeah.
And where do you get that from, your mom or your dad?
I'll say my dad, yeah. My dad is a maverick.
It's really. But, they obviously put you in the right direction and guided you, and then you did well, and you got your CA and you got your accounting, all the degrees. I was just extremely impressed at your resume of your achievements. And I really don't do it. I don't talk about what people have achieved. But I'm just saying, some of your achievements over the years are part of your resume. If I may just go through them, because they are greatly impressive. And I think it's important that the viewers understand who Ben Kodisang is. I mean, you have, in the past, you've been chairman of SA Corporate Real Estate. One of the things that we'll understand, chairman of West Grow in the Western Cape. I mean, I understand that business pretty well, especially in the property side and how they've pioneered and changed the landscape of the Western Cape. You've been the chairman and president of SAPOA, the property organization of South Africa. Your achievements are incredible. And I think along the way, the journey, your first corporate appointment, that was a decision, or did they approach you, or was it a decision, did you apply to go and join STANLIB? Was that your first job, or did you start somewhere else first?
That's a very good question, because funny enough, it happened for me much later in life, where I'll say I had to apply for anything. So how my life turned out is the same CA that came to talk about the profession effectively was a partner at EY, and then he introduced me to the chairman of EY. That's how I got a scholarship from EY, which is why I ended up doing my articles at EY. Okay. And towards the end of my articles, the only thing I guess that I was interested in was a career in financial services. Mm. So it was one of two routes. It was asset management or investment banking. So I set up two meetings. So first meeting was with Andy Leith. I don't know if you remember.
No, Andy Leith. Yeah.
Hardcore oak. So he put me off investment banking and Investec at the same time. And then the other meeting was with a guy called Raad Kesler, who happened to be ex-EY at LIVM, as it was called, Liberty Asset Management. And he sold asset management to me and sold the firm, and that's how I got to join LIVM.
And did you obviously started part of a team and you learned there? Was it a good place to start for someone that had just basically finished their articles, or do you think that you could have been somewhere else? Or you went kind of into the big five straight away.
Yeah, I got lucky in the sense that the investment management game in those days, the big boys were LIVM, Ellen Gray, Sanlam, and Mutual, I guess. And so I got lucky then to have access into the big boys. But it also happened at a very interesting time. It was at the time that Donald Gordon was transitioning out of Liberty. It was a time that Liberty actually owned Standard Bank. It was a time that now the late Roy McAlpine, who founded LIVM, I'll say was pretty much at his peak. Got lucky to work for Clive Nates, who is an investment guru in my mind, who went to go co-found Peregrine Capital, which is the best performing hedge fund, as you know, over the last couple of years. And worked with incredible people. That's how I got grounded into the world of investments.
How long were you there before they made you a director?
So I started...
I think you ended up being managing director.
No, not at LIVM. No, not at LIVM. Yeah, LIVM started off as... I'll say that's where I honed my investment skill. I started off as an analyst. I was a retail and industrial analyst, and then moved to being an assistant portfolio manager. So when I left as an assistant portfolio manager.
Okay.
And at that point, I suppose the activism in me, I wasn't quite happy with the leadership choices that were made in that transition. So with Roy McAlpine, the founder, leaving the next cohort of leadership, I felt it was a bit of a cop-out by appointing joint MDs. And I suppose with the benefit of hindsight, I can say that it was the end of LIVM in relation to its powerhouse status at that point in time, because they effectively flipped, right? So they went into growth stocks at the wrong time. That Ellen Gray stuck to its knitting, and we know what happened to Ellen Gray subsequently. So I was there during that transition, and left them to join Robbie Alexander at Prodigy, which was a startup in '98.
Really? So you went and you also worked for Rob?
Yeah, today.
I spoke to him today.
No ways.
Yeah, we spoke today. We're busy with something with him. Yeah, we're busy with something big.
He's one guy that also taught me self-belief. Okay. He made me buy my first Hugo Boss suit.
Okay.
Because he told me that investments was an investing philosophy then. It's selling success, right?
If you not the part, you got to look the part.
Exactly.
And eventually you'll become the part.
Exactly. That's it was very innovative at the time. I mean, we did in 1998. We had Labour as shareholders, so we were instrumental in the formation of Union Alliance Holdings. We had a women empowerment group. So our thought process seriously was way ahead of empowerment.
But that was in asset management.
That was in asset management.
And asset management that encompassed investments and property, or not?
Yeah, it's what I call public markets. So we focus on public markets, so what is listed, which is a JSE, which is bonds, which is local and international. And then I'll say I was 10 years in so-called public markets. I don't want to call it asset management because I never quite left asset management until I joined All Mutual, where I spent 10 years.
Why did you leave a place that you were doing so well and go to All
Mutual?
Those are the decisions where we want to get into for our viewers to understand the growth.
So Prodigy was one of those interesting success stories that I suppose you could also argue became a failure, right? So I'll say 1998, we were the fastest growing asset management firm. As in, we opened our doors in April, we had money to manage by June. Quarter to, I'll say, June, July, August, September, we were probably running number one, but that was mainly
on performance.
But that was a function of our style. So we were a growth investor. So that means we preferred financial services as opposed to the big banks. We preferred technology, media, telecoms that we're running. And I remember our first rookie mistake is, as I said, we opened our doors in April. By August, we had A and B making us an offer to buy us out for 80 bars. And we felt, crikey, if these oaks see 80 bars of value out of
6 months,
6 months of a value proposition, surely we're underselling ourselves. And it was a Ravi type thinking. So we said no to Rob Dow and went to go buy ourselves some expensive bottles of red wine from Klein Constantia. And we inscribed on it not to be open until we hit R1 billion market cap. Needless to say, then after that offer, we had the Asian crisis, which basically happened in September 1998, where the market crashed. So it would have been the right thing in hindsight to have accepted that offer. And our existential crisis and with the market crash was that we had sold a growth investment philosophy. And with every correction, the markets naturally react by so-called a flight to value. And conservatism, right? And then our choice then was to say, do we change the portfolio to how we know the market is going to behave? Or do we stay true to what we promised? And understanding that if we stay true to what we promised, it meant now having enough working capital to survive the cycle or the correction phase. So we chose to stay true to what we promised. Then the next challenge was the working capital challenge. So clearly that ran out. We had a few options of merging with a few people, and for various reasons that did not work out. And then I exited the business when we eventually then sold Prodigy to Chorus, which was a ISCO pension fund, which would have meant leaving Cape Town for Pretoria, and I wasn't quite ready for that.
Okay. But did you make anything out of the deal, or did you just basically sell?
I made good friends. I've got lekker stories to tell.
And a few bottles of wine, but you got out of it with a few scars. with a few scars.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so you kind of had your decision made for you, and obviously Old Mutual, I mean, an opportunity arose there, and then you saw that and you took it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Old Mutual was paying me for a while because, I mean, after... So when Prodigy was being sold to Chorus, African Harvest then headhunted me to basically head up the growth team. At the time, they were experimenting with different investment styles. So I joined Tim Alsop, Matt Brenzel, Anthony Sedgwick, and those guys in running effectively the growth team. Mm. So that's and during that phase, I analyzed financial services. I managed a financial services unit trust, which then gave me access, I guess, to all these leaders of financial services. And Old Mutual was one that must have been...
Who was there at the time? I mean, the head of the investments side.
The person that recruited me was Peter Moyo. Okay. He was a deputy.
I was trying to remember. I think I remember then.
He was deputy MD of the life business. Rudy Sparks was a MD of Old Mutual. Okay. Paul Enrachi was one of the deputy MDs. So was Peter DiBaio. It was during that era. Okay. When Old Mutual had just moved to London. So Mike Levet was still the chairman, Jim Sutcliffe was group CEO, and then Rudy running South Africa at the time.
And you did well there on the investment side. I mean, I remember those times where the whole of South Africa there was a lot of things happening in the industries and investment sides, and then obviously, how did you end up moving? Did you know that you were going to move into the property side, or was it by default getting involved in that portfolio of mutual properties?
So how it happened was...
the reason I'm saying is I see it in corporate world. You sit in a board, you sit in an investment committee, someone gets fired somewhere along the line and they look for someone to replace that seat and they put him there and they say, you be the caretaker for that for a while. I'm not saying that would happen, but I'm saying, is that your story?
So my first gig at Old Mutual, headed up, today they call it the corporate investment business, but it was EB Investment Services at that point in time. I'll say it was a big ego job, right? We had, 700 billion under management, worked a lot with actuaries. We designed pre-retirement investment products as well as post-retirement. Symmetry, the multi-manager then, was just a startup. The business made like R1 billion of profits. But for me, as much as it was a big ego job, I felt I didn't really have control of the factors of production because distribution was managed by someone else, and I had to fight for my shelf space to become priority in terms of what distribution needed to sell. And it just coincided with Sanlam appointing Johan van Zyl as group chief exec of Sanlam. And at the time, Johan was painting me in the background as he was building his core team. So how then the pivot point happened was actually I was on my way leaving Old Mutual when I said, as a matter of principle, I have to first inform my principals of my decision before I signed. And Peter Moyo at that time referred me to Rudy Sparks. And Rudy Sparks managed it very well by rather focusing on where I saw myself in 5 years, which was really running my own business. So we had that conversation over some wine. And the next morning, he came back to me to say, look, there are two opportunities that I can avail for you. So one was within Nedbank when Mike Brown was leaving Durban to go head up property finance at Nedbank. So there's that opportunity, but it's just a matter of putting your name in a process. And then the other one is within On Mutual Properties, where we've got this property business. The incumbent has got 2 to 3 years to go before retirement. So we can bring you in as part and parcel of their transition management. So think about it. Let me know if any of them piques your interest. And the mutual property one is the one that piqued my interest. So I always say.
But you were walking away from Sanlam.
I was walking away from Sanlam.
They must have made you a handsome proposal.
They did indeed. They did indeed.
Tell me the thinking process behind that property, because what intrigued you and what made you get attracted and move towards property? Because you were in investment banking, corporate finance, clever, seen it, met it, relationship, network, done it everywhere, been in the boards. But property is different.
It's very different.
Yeah.
It's funny enough. It was clearly academic at that point in time, because I'll say investments generally are amorphous beings, right? They esoteric. They spreadsheets. You buy, you move money, but it's not tangible. Now you buy Anglo, you buy Tungela. It's just names on a spreadsheet. And your obligation is to report performance, which also seems to be fictitious. And I've always seen property then as a bridge between those two worlds.
You can have both.
You can have both. So you still do the normal investment stuff, but you can see where your money is going. It's in bricks and mortar. And you've got the ability of driving value out of the bricks and mortar, which is how you get your dents, your hands dirty in terms of how you tenant it and how you mix it if it's retail. So that was intrigued, and ironically, that became exactly what I fell in love about.
Okay, so because I'm glad you answered it that way. I'm glad you just spoke about it like that, because it articulated it in a perfect way. Because moving from the investment side, so often, I'm just saying, the industry, we get these financial gurus, and they get involved in property, and they all they do is they look at the spreadsheets. They never go to the properties, and they got they know everything about property. I'm not going to ever mention any names about anyone, because, but at the end of the day, the real guys that have done well in property, the people that have fallen in love with the bricks and mortar side of it, and the creation and the longevity and the reinvention of the properties and everything that goes around encompassing the development and the possible sale of the property. So then you went and you became part of that, and you ran. I think, I'm not mistaken, I think you became the chairman. You were you sat in that role for a while, and that group, that whole group, that the merger of them. Then I think say corporate came out of that.
So we grew the business from 4 billion to 32. So besides the organic property growth drivers, the one part which was then acquisitive for us was about expanding our capital base into listed money. And I'll tie this story up with your interview with
Mike.
With Mike. So at the time, the Marriott stable had this listed property fund called SA Retail, which was underperforming, and I think it was Redefine that had a big shareholding in it that they were very unhappy with, and they were making a play to effectively take it over, the fund out. So the Marriott people then came to me as the Black Knight, as I call myself, to save them from that takeover. So we ended up then buying Marriott. So Marriott then gave us access into Marprop and SA Retail.
I think that's
so
the time
was
Peter Sparks. A couple of those
Craig
names.
Ewan.
Yes,
that's right. So we basically took SA Retail and Marprop together, which is what is today SA Corporate. And then we had other funds like Ambit, Oryx in Namibia. So we had quite a few listed property funds. And for us, it was then about an entry. So we sold some of those that were not core, but as a corp, we kept then as a core fund. So that's the one then that I was the inaugural chairman of, and PIC was a big shareholder. Clearly, they were big in terms of governance. So Wainford and Fent at the time gave me 3 years to settle as a corporate down and move on from the chairing position because of the other hat that I wore as MD of all mutual properties, because that's where our big balance sheet actually was.
Rumor has it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and you can tell me that in one of the interviews or the meetings, or that you met a whole board of people. I mean, besides being clever, you've got an unbelievable memory. And apparently you were introduced to everyone and you went through around them, and then what happened is that when you left the meeting, you recited everyone's name, and you knew exactly who was where and where they sat and who they were. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, it's basically the whole leadership team of Marriott.
And you'd never met them before?
I had never met them except for the Lani's that we were busy negotiating the deal with. And I was taking them away on a leadership conference. So they met us at Pinelands, got in the bus, and I said, by the time we get to Caledon, I'll know everyone by name in the bus. Okay. So they betted me Johnny Walker Blue. Okay. But I think I did not wait until the end of the trip. I think I was there in about 20 minutes, if not 15. Okay.
Is that just a memory thing, or is it just a technique that you have? Because, I mean, I can't remember something that happened 3 minutes ago.
No, you train your mind at it. I become lazy over time, but it still applies today. They say, if you want to recall a name, just say 3 times. Okay. So it doesn't help to say, hi, Norman, I'm Ben, and leave it at that. You're going to forget. But if you repeat it 3 times, it holds staying power.
So, and then obviously you were there for a while, and you did very well, and you enjoyed yourself. You learned a lot. I mean, the names that you've mentioned, they were all leaders, and they were very involved. There was a lot of activity. There was a lot of buying, selling, and you never actually learn anything when things are not happening. You only learn when there's turmoil and change and activity. You must have learned a lot. But then from there, where did it take you?
Yeah, I mean, the end of Old Mutual was not so lekker, right? In a sense that the global financial crisis now was the big catalyst. So there's a theme here. All my big life changes are around market corrections. So I don't know what the current Middle East one is scribing in the background for me. But yeah, the global financial crisis was clearly a liquidity-driven event. And at the core of it, what most people in South Africa might not realize is that we sat as a country in a very precarious position, I'll say, by February of 1998. Because if the markets did not run and recover in March, we'll be talking a very different narrative, whether the banks and the life companies managed to survive or were robust. But for the life company that I was involved with, it was, I guess, the boards coming to a realization that they too exposed to illiquid investments, described as infrastructure, what we call private capital now.
Because, I mean, for the viewers, and I understand that kind of section, you have a percentage of the maximum that you could be exposed to a certain sector. And once that's breached, then you got to kind of sell off assets or, to make sure that you fit into the parameters of what you're governed by.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So to mention the complexity, I guess, of the risk that life companies are managing, it's diversification, it's exposure, it's liquidity, in relation to the overall market. So at that time, they were very exposed to illiquids, so they needed to dial down that risk or close out that exposure. And the only asset class that was semi-liquid was real estate. So for me and my team personally then is 99 was a tough year because then we needed to liquidate big numbers. I think we needed to liquidate like 3.5 billion. And in property, they must not see you coming, otherwise they take you out. So the point that I'm illustrating, because it was a liquidity-driven event, the consequence on us as a property business was a life company needed to reduce exposure. It looked like 3.5 billion in 1999. That's what we needed to liquidate. And then I'm talking nonsense, man. 2009, not 1999. And then in 2010, it needed to be 5.5 billion, which clearly is a big number. And we did everything the previous year, getting rid of non-core assets and. So this is now, I suppose it needed a different solution. And the solution for us then was to list the property fund. And we did all that work. And then unfortunately, the life company first approved it. And then I think in 2011, they changed their mind around the listing. So my ending then was around the cancellation of the listing, which clearly I did not agree with. And I had to do the honorable thing and leave in that situation.
And tell me, so you left, and then you obviously, the next journey of yours, when did you decide that corporate world wasn't for you? Because I think your path was continuously growing. You could have ended up even gone further in the corporate world because you ticked all the boxes. And let's face it, you've got the experience and the qualification and the leading teams, big teams, and achieved results. There was a decision to eventually
So from
leave.
Mutual, I followed my ex-boss, who was CEO of STANLIB. So he took me away from Cape Town. I got back to Joburg as MD of asset management and later helped STANLIB build its Africa platform.
Did you work with Amelia?
Amelia was part of the direct property team at that stage. So we were colleagues then, but at All Mutual, we worked far more closer. And then, it did not end well, as I got passed over for the big job when it became available. So again, I had to do the honorable thing of leaving, since there were two balls in the crawl. Then I joined Sanlam as CEO of Alternative Investments. And I'll say it was my brief time at Sanlam that got me to see the opportunity that I'm pursuing right now. And it happened mainly because, I guess, when Sanlam and I were in initial discussions, I think they misunderstood the question that I asked them, because to do private capital, you need balance sheet. And at the time, they told me, not an issue. And then upon joining, I realized it's a federal system. So where they thought there's no issue, that portfolio manager was managing different risks in terms of his book being in liquidation phase or being a mature book. So they didn't have capital then to do what they employed me to do. And for them to solve that, then it needed the actuaries to remodel so that it utilizes shareholder funds as opposed to policyholder funds. I saw this taking 5 years, and I said, well, 5 years is a long time to stick around twiddling my thumbs. Let me spend the 5 years building my own shop.
You talk about some of the I wouldn't say forced exits, or you didn't get the position and you decided to exit, or you didn't want to be there. But I'm saying those are good things for you. They've created and they've shaped you for who you are today. Absolutely. And what you've done. Because had you have not gone through those difficult periods and learned and realized not what you had, but what you didn't want. I think that's what you took out of it. And you got to a stage where you realized, this is what I don't want. And then you say, I'm going to go and do my own thing.
Yeah, precisely, Norman. They're all gifts, right?
Yeah.
It was all part of chiseling Ben.
Yeah. You think they're terrible at the time.
No, at the time, they're horrible.
Yeah. but I'll never forget, and I remember, and I have to say it because I also went through a difficult time once, and more than once. But in this one particular time, my sister said to me, "This is an absolute blessing for you. This will pass." And you don't see the blessing. And I'm saying that the same for you. It was an absolute blessing. And look what it's created. It's created what I would say possibly one of, if not the leader, and you are self-made. And through your network, your relationships, your learning curve, and you're experienced at the expense of the corporates. They gave you all their experience and paid for it.
100%.
How did you find? And I mean, the business that you wanted to go, the name and your team and who you're going to bring along with you, and your money, the raised capital. That must have been a little bit as easy it may seem in hindsight. It must have been daunting that this is what you wanted to do.
Yeah. So from a team perspective, I found myself in exactly the same position where I was when I left school. As in, I wanted a clean piece of paper, no baggage to start afresh. So I deliberately chose not to work with anyone that I had worked with the previous 25 years, and rather trust my instincts and ability of building a team. So my team now is all developed, I guess, in this journey in many respects. So I'll say that was one. And so there were two parts to it. What's the other part to your question?
No. So I said the daunting raising capital and equity. I mean, how did you think about that you were going to go and actually find the equity or the money to actually
okay. So how did I
to set you on the journey? Because you can't do it without money.
Yeah, of course.
People like to believe they can do it on paper, but you need money.
Yeah. So some of the lessons, I guess, from my corporate life was value your equity, never give away your equity early. So clearly it was 25 years of working. I had a little bit of a nest egg. So I knew I wanted to self-fund to a point in terms of the working capital to build the actual platform. And the only capital then that I needed to raise was investment capital. So which is precisely then what we did. But because I grew up within institutional mindsets, I guess I knew I was building an institutional quality business. So the type of investors then are your big institutions. So so we got lucky, right? So we've got.
We don't get lucky. I'll tell you right. The luck took 25 years to get lucky.
Yeah. So we've got the likes of the PIC, Riskura, and behind Riskura, it's like.
But there's a trust. They must have trusted you.
Of course, yeah. These are relationships, as you were saying earlier, that were built over like 25 years.
And the vision that you had for them, that you painted for them, I mean, was it clear right up front, or were you not sure what you were going to invest in, what you were going to?
Yeah. So how it panned out was when I left corporate in 2018, I seriously struggled to see where value was in the property industry, right? And I was meeting a lot of arrogance as well from the market, which I normally size that the market is hot. So that was for 2 years. I just could not see value, could not see opportunity. And then it kind of like clicked for me end of 19 into 2020 by just using the words impact. So I chose impact as a differentiator then to the norm. And then maybe it was coincidental that epiphany happened in the year of COVID. But I found myself in Q1 where I was in a lot of discussions and conversations with my mates and people that I know. And generally the sentiment was very negative. Everyone was externalizing money. Everyone had lost hope with the state of affairs in the country. Everyone basically wanted to slit the wrist, right, and leave. So we called the fund REimagine because we wanted to reimagine a different way of solving for poverty, lack of growth, income inequality, and. So when we anchored, then the problem that we
But you must have
to solve,
identified that as a gap in the market.
no, I'm telling you exactly how it happened. It started in conversation that was very negative, and through attitude to say we need to reimagine a different narrative. And then it said, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? Yeah, inequality, lack of growth, unemployment, blah, blah. So that was our why. And then I related it then to the property industry to say, within the property industry, or how population migration demographics have panned out is through apartheid spatial planning. It basically meant that as property people, we developed the major metropoles. We left behind then the townships and rural areas. And in the last 30 years, we've seen increasing urbanization, but that's mainly rural people moving to Cape Town, Joburg, in the search for jobs. So our urbanization rate, or what we're experiencing today in terms of load shedding, water infrastructure not supporting the population density, as an outcome that we're only experiencing today, the gap then is exactly what's left behind, being the townships, peri-urban and rural areas. So then that's how we defined our addressable market, was to say, if we had to make an impact in terms of what we do, these are the areas that we can make an impact. And given now when we started studying those markets to see the extent of demand supply dislocation, realize it is so big that it will keep us busy for the next 20 years.
But it's still competitive. I mean, you've got some great companies developing in those areas. I mean, and it's very successful, and people that do know what they're doing and doing well. What were you going to do different?
Yeah, so they trapped in the same strategic mindset that I was trapped when I ran on mutual properties. When you're big, the only things that move the dial is to keep on doing big stuff. Okay, that's the growth trap. So if you look then at all the existing players, a lot of them that have been playing in these markets are in that growth trap. They need to do big. But we are a startup. We are nimble. So we could go left where they can't go left. So we could go into smaller properties. Or if you look at retail, to say that from the 2000s, our preoccupation in terms of how we design these spaces was build them big because they're destinations and people travel to destinations. And within the destinations, then we create a value proposition where people can have increased dwell time to spend more. That's how we design the sentient cities and all this big stuff. But reality is the world is becoming more personal now. You want to
time. You don't want to spend a whole day somewhere. You want to be in and out.
You want to be in and out. You don't want to pay for parking. You want to find your convenience offering. So the concept of convenience we learned during COVID to say, actually, there's a lacquer word that describes what is a defensive sector or what is a defensive product. Food, you need food to eat, so grocery, healthcare, right? Fast food. I don't want to, affordable clothing is a better word than, affordable clothing, banking. So our product then is actually a very simple product.
It's what you need.
It's what people need. So we're taking what people need.
Not what they want, what they need.
And bringing it closer to where they are so that we can save them money from transportation, save them time. So that's how we thought about it to differentiate, reimagine.
Very clever, very clever. I mean, how big is your fund now?
So the fund, we managed to secure 1.3 billion rands of equity. Okay. And we've got another billion rands banking facilities from our friends at Investec and RMB. Okay. And we've deployed about 1.8 billion. So we sit with a balance sheet of 16 assets. We're in 7 out of 9 provinces.
And your sweet spot size of those assets?
So Yeah, which is an interesting question, right? So our mandate is up to 12,500 square meters.
Okay.
And what we have is a range of 2,200 as a small asset to 12.5. But if you ask me, the small stuff is best left to individuals. So
Too small.
Too small. Yeah, too much effort for very little return. Sweet spots, I'll say, is starting to move to 7.5 and 10.5. I'll say that's our sweet spot.
Okay.
But because we're starting to think about Fund 2, we're increasing size even further now to 18.5. So 12.5 will become the new sweet spot.
So you're going to leave a gap for someone else to reimagine.
Correct. It's called the growth track for a reason, right?
No, so I mean, looking back on this journey, I mean, you've created something. I mean, listen, let's face it. As an entrepreneur, it looks easy and it sounds easy now, but you've had massive challenges along the way. I mean, just your little story here right now. Actually, you've got to, I can empathize with what you've gone through. But, looking back, there must have been some real regrets that you've had and mistakes that you've made. I mean, do you think you could have got here sooner, or can you identify some of those mistakes?
Yeah, I guess mistakes we make plenty. Regrets, I'll say no. As in, yeah, I mean, spiritually, I believe we all have a path to travel to get us to where we're meant to be. So I always
what a great outlook.
Take experience as experience. It's
acceptance.
For you to learn. Accept it. Yeah. To your sister's point.
Do you play golf?
Just two shall pass.
Do you play golf, Ben?
Unfortunately not. I'm saving something for the next phase.
You'd be a good golfer. Acceptance is one of the traits you need. No, so and then looking also, I mean, I like to always look back. Who do you think, I mean, was your best, who taught you the most, who your standout, like your mentor, someone that you learned the most? Doesn't even have to be a mentor. Who did you learn the most?
I'll probably let me name three people that have been fundamental, right? I learn a lot from people all the time. But I'll say my first investment boss, Clive Nates. As I said, in my mind, one of the best investment minds that I got to experience. And the difference that he made to my life is he allowed me to find my investment voice. I always say investing is a personal thing, right? You don't copy paste Warren Buffett. You need to find your own investment voice. So he allowed me to find my own investment voice, which I'm grateful for. And then secondly, I'll say Ian White, who was my predecessor on Mutual Property. I am still to meet a creative mind like that Oak has in terms of the retail space. So he's clearly the guy that saw a super regional out of sugarcane fields in KZN, right?
I remember his office is in Cavendish Square.
Yeah, I mean,
he sat there running.
He's one of the pioneers that literally took what we call shopping centers. I'll say he pioneered that in the country. Amazing mind. And then the third one was my mentor, who unfortunately passed on during COVID, an old Jewish guy called Louis Carroll.
Okay.
Louis was an architect.
Yes, Louis Carroll Architects.
Yeah, he designed half of Cape Town. So I got so blessed to have spent lots of time with Louis. And Louis always is to challenge my mindset and conservatism, because he used to say, Mr. Kodisang, you don't become a developer by being pessimistic. You have to be optimistic. And to be optimistic, you need to sell a vision. So I'll say, Louis kind of like taught me the value of relationships.
I love architects. They sell these dreams, but they don't know how to build them. I shouldn't say that too harshly, but I say they beautify everything, and then they leave it to the engineers and go make this happen. Yeah. So, but.
Yeah, so I'll mention those three because I mean there's quite a few that's made.
And it was at any stage in the last few years. I mean, I know know you said, you navigated through COVID, but was there at any stage through this last period where you thought, we made a mistake here, we've bitten off, we're facing a bit of headwinds here? What,
I mean, I'll be honest, there were headwinds all the way. So when we started with our thesis, it was a very broad impact thesis. So it was not just convenience retail, it included affordable housing, student accommodation, a bit of retirement village and co-living. And I remember selling this idea to the banks and the investors initially and realized that the world does not look at life the way I'm putting it together. So it forced us to separate those two worlds. But by then we had gathered kind of like a team that specialized in each different property type. So I say tongue in cheek, we started retrenching people before we were even on the road, right? That was our journey. Normally you build a team. So we had to downsize to then the team that ended up being the Social Impact Retail Fund. So in other words, the lesson for me was test your idea with capital, because capital knows what it wants, and I guess you give capital what it wants, or if not, it's going to be lonely trying to swim up a pole. And then 2 was exactly that. Do not harbor too much emotion in business, because clearly when you're creating and you're selling the idea of the impact fund as we had it, and you trying to get people to join your crusade is exciting. But when that moment comes where you have to shed, you have to shed and do it with empathy. Again, is probably bringing a bit of experience, but you need to make those tough decisions. Third, it took.
Well, I've never seen a successful businessman that hasn't been able to make tough decisions.
No, correct. Yeah. And then the third one and last one, I'll say it was tough for the banks, right? Because when it comes to property, everyone understands REITs. And because they've got balance sheets, so it's easy for banks to lend to them. And then if it's not a REIT and it's unlisted, it's in a family office, holdco, right? So again, it's got balance sheets, or it's got individuals that have been doing it forever that they can easily get property finance. Our structure is very unique. We've gone private equity, real estate, and created something quite unique that no one really understood. So it took time to build that confidence with the banks, or to get the banks to see the world the way we see them. And so that's why it took time to secure.
Who was your first investor?
Our first commitment was Eskom Pension and Provident Fund.
Okay, brilliant. And they must be very happy with you today.
I should hope so, yeah.
Okay, and I mean, obviously, what do you think you would require? Would you like more? Would you like more opportunities or more finance?
Mamwila. South Africa has got an abundance of opportunity. We're not short on opportunity. Okay. It's just Mamwila to make the world go more around. Yeah.
Okay. And your vision for your fund, is there an ambitious size you want to get to?
Yeah, so Fund 1, we almost fully deployed that. So that one will be, let's call it 3.5 billion when it matures. We in the market as we speak to raise another 2.5 billion up to 3 billion. And with 60% loan to value, that one, it's got the potential to be 6.5, 7. So I guess it means then that in 5 years' time, all else being the same, we should be a 10 billion property business.
And your best acquisition today? I mean, I know you've just done this development now in Rustenburg, but I'm saying your best acquisition to date?
No, the best acquisition was definitely the 2 properties we acquired from Caballeros, Akon Park in Reimagining and Welkom.
I get to ask this question to everyone that's on the show. As a graduate, out of articles and obviously you've gone the journey. What advice would you give to someone that is just leaving there? Would follow the path that you did, or to take up more opportunities? I mean, it'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, that's such a good question. I mean, the word is find your passion, right? But maybe that's too vague. Find something in the world that you care about and would like to do something about it as a first step. And when you find it, because truth is, it's hard work, it's discipline, it's resilience, it's all those things that it takes to achieve so-called success. So passion normally helps you stomach the hard work that needs to be done. And thirdly, I'll say there are, 7 billion people, 9 billion people in the world? Be authentic.
Be different.
Be you, because you are unique. So don't be shy to show the world who you are.
Yeah. And again, I need to ask you, I mean, you sat on the Black Property Practitioners Board, and you've seen, what does the future look like for the Black property practitioners coming through today? Have you identified anyone there? Is there potential? Do we see a lot of like new emerging faces and clever guys coming through?
Yeah, no, plenty. I was talking with this youngster at the Sapporo convention last year, because last year was my 20th convention. So I was comparing last year to 20 years ago. The one thing that stands out is the industry has actually transformed quite a bit.
Okay.
So kudos to all the players in terms of the bursaries and opportunities, the training and access that they've provided. The banks stand out in relation to how much capacity or access they've provided to a whole lot of individuals. So I'm finding, again, there is no shortage of talent. We've got plenty of those. And I'm seeing a lot of hunger from those that come behind that are inspired, I guess, by people like us that show that it is possible, it can be done, to actually meet us, see us, and surpass us, right? So I'm quite excited about
you're the
future.
benchmark now. I mean, you're the guy that the young, qualified person coming into the business world looks to aspire to become or to be or to learn from you. So, I mean, you can look back and identify someone has got the X factor.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be remiss because my whole team, I think they've got the whole X factor. I've been very deliberate around the team that we've been building, and it's a mix of age demographics and background. So easily my successor is there, right? But even outside of the company, looking broader into the industry, I think there's a lot of exciting talent. Huh?
Give me a word that resonates with your investors and the people that are looking up to you.
It's a phrase as opposed to a word. It's called,
I'm happy with it.
It's called prosperity with purpose.
Okay.
And it says that recognize the capitalists that we are. Just be a social capitalist. You can make money and still do good, which is what prosperity with purpose is about.
Okay, and make a difference. Make a difference. Well, I can tell you right now, you didn't get lucky. You did 25 years of labor, okay, and it all worked out, and I think you're on a great path and a great journey, and the success speaks for itself. You speak for yourself. I think you've got an amazing, and you can be proud of yourself, a name out there. You've achieved, you've accomplished, and you're growing. The fact that you can raise that amount of money after you've proven success, I want to, from me and from our team, just congratulate you and thank you so much for being here. And we wish you all the very best into the future. And really thank you for sharing this time with us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Norman. It's been a pleasure chatting to you.
Lovely. Thank you. I'm Norman Raad, and see you on the next one. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Cheers for now.